Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the 223rd episode of the Ask Abhijit show. Hope everyone is doing great. Thank you so much for being on this live stream with me this nice evening, this nice day, morning, wherever you are. And I'm going to take questions both from the comments and from the live chat. It's going to be a mix of both, but I've selected a bunch of questions from the comments, and I'll also take questions from the live chat. So before we do that, let me see who all is there on the live stream. Let me greet some of you. I can see Jasman Raj Singh, Ashish Pandel, Vinay Paul Gill, Jatin Kumar Bhushan, Manavendra Chaudhary, Gaurav Rathi, Ramai Raj Singh, Amay Tulpule, Raghuvir Solanki, Y.M. Anant Pai, Anish, Somya Datta, Om Prakash, Sumit Jain, Feminist Slayer, Kuldeep Chauhan, Zubong Izang, hello, Karan Nalawat, Jai Shri Ram, Geopolitical Dubey, hello, Akash, Bharat First, Samarth Tripathi, Abhishek, Saida says, J Lord, Rutvij Majumdar, Super Rex, Uddipt Dekha, Swapnil Dastanoy, Shailaja, Threat Ripper, hello, Jasman Raj Singh again, Rajat Duhan Vidhi Manyar, hello, Anandu Nair, Jigar Binde, Vikram Geopolitical Dubey, hello, Shivek, Shagun Chopra, hello, Adityan, Rajan, YM, Gautami, Uma Maheshwari, Baba Abhijit Chavda, Xmas, Ymas, Zemus, Alvin Rodriguez, Shorin Goda, Parth SKSM, Joy Mukherjee, Akshay Khanna, Sabir 29, Janavi Jai Hind, Jaideep Paul, Vivek Med, Shri Charan, Shamanth Rao, Seven Truth, and so many other people. So I'm not going to be able to greet everybody, but thank you so much for being here, Ankita, Gaurav Hazra, and everybody else. Okay. So let's get going with the questions. I'll take some questions from the comments that you've asked in the comments first, and then I'll take questions alternating perhaps from live chat and comments, and that's how we will take it. But before we do that, let me remind you all of the Abhijit Chavda Clips channel in case you seek answers to individual questions. This here is the channel that you need to look at. Hopefully, subscribe if it makes sense to you. I'm uploading individual answers to questions to individual answers on this channel, and you can find questions that have been asked in recent live streams and the answers over here on this channel. The link is in the live chat. The link is also in the description. Please go ahead and subscribe to it if this is something that makes sense to you. Thank you very much. And before I begin, I would like to once again thank Ramalakshmi VV for the incredible work he is doing. Every time I do a live stream, he always invariably puts up the timestamps. It helps everybody so much. It helps me. It helps all the viewers who want to check out individual answers. So once again, Rama Lakshmi, I cannot thank you enough for the incredible work you're doing. I really, really appreciate it, and I'm very grateful to you. Thank you very much, Rama Lakshmi. Okay, let's take some questions. What's the first question? Okay, it's by a couple of people. Why is the Russian Chess Federation? Why have they accused China's Ding Liren of losing the world championship intentionally and questioning and why they question the legitimacy of the Gukesh? We should celebrate Gukesh's win. And what's with so many Russian chess players, being salty to Gukesh? Vladimir Kramnik, Ian Nepo, I can't pronounce the name. Nepo, the president of the Chess Federation of Russia. What's going on? I don't think it's a Russian issue. Okay, it's not just the Russians who are doing it. Uh, India is this up and coming nation. I mean, we are the inventors of chess as a civilization thousands of years ago. But historically, the past century or so, we have not really had too many chess champions. If we go to Google and we, let's say, try and search for the list of chess champions, let's quickly do that. Okay, let's go to Google, list of chess world champions. Let's do that. Let's go to chess.com, and here we have the list. So how many Indians we had? Anand from 2007 to 2013. He's a four-time past world champion. Before that, we had so many others and no Indians. Some real greats. We had Alexander Alekhine, Mikhail Botvinnik, the great Karpov, the great Kasparov. We had Vladimir Kramnik, and recently Magnus Carlsen, and now Ding Liren, and now finally Gukesh Domaraju. So India is this up and coming nation. No real history in the recent past of any great feats when it comes to chess. And now we have this guy, this young 18-year-old kid, essentially, who has won the chess championship. And how did he win it? I mean, this guy, the defending champion, Ling Diren, he blundered at the very end by positioning his rook in the wrong place, which led to a rook exchange. Uh, the bishop, his bishop was trapped. That went off, and then it was just end game. Uh, and Ding had to resign after that. So it was a terrible blunder. But let's understand that these chess players, the grandmasters who are playing at the very highest level, are under incredible stress when they are playing. They spend insane amounts of time preparing for everything. And this was the final game of the chess championship, 6.5, 6.5. And there was a tremendous amount of pressure on both players. And at that stage, it's all about mental toughness. Both are equally good, but it's all about it all boils down to mental toughness. And clearly, Gukesh was tougher. I mean, the match was meandering towards a draw, but Gukesh kept on playing. He did not offer a draw. He kept on playing. He just ground it out, and he waited for the opponent to crumble under pressure, and that's what happened. So it's not an intentional loss by Ding Liren. I mean, come on, he's a great champion himself. He's one of the great players that we have today. You can't, without any evidence, accuse him of intentionally losing. What will he gain by doing that? What will he gain by doing that? By losing intentionally? That's nonsense. It's just that some people are jealous. They're unhappy with the way that India is rising in the world. There could be an amount of racism. I mean, Magnus Carlsen, the previous champion, he has been rather uncharitable towards Gukesh and kind of not said things that are not very nice about Gukesh. He has been like that. He's not been a very gracious former champion, rather rude and all. So it's not just the Russians; it's a lot of people who are doing that. And what can I say? We in India we obviously we should celebrate the great victory of Gukesh. 18 years old, the youngest ever world chess champion, and ahead of him came so many greats. The names of Kasparov, Karpov, Vishwanathan Anand, Mikhail Botvinnik, Bobby Fischer. I mean, some of the greatest of all time, and he is now one of them. I think he had posters on his walls of these people, and now he is one of them. That's what he's achieved. So incredible victory by Gukesh. Congratulations to Gukesh. Obviously, the whole nation, 1.4 billion people, most of them are celebrating along with you, and lots of people are happy about this across the world. There's always going to be some people who are not happy. Ignore them, and if they have a problem with this, what can I say? Cope. All right. Okay, next question. What's the next question? Okay, this thing is blowing up now. So Ajinkya says, I'm currently residing in New Jersey. That's on the East Coast in the US. It's very close to New York. And there have been numerous reports of large drones or unidentified flying objects, UFOs, in the area. Government officials and the FBI have stated that they are unsure of what these things are. What are these things? We have no idea. That's what they say. It seems remarkable that a nation with such advanced capabilities might not be able to identify activity within its own airspace. I would appreciate your perspective on this matter. And the second question is the US government deliberately hiding info about the recent UFO sightings, or could these sightings be linked to advanced human technology or the aliens? Oh my God, what's going on is the question. Now, people, viewers who know me for a while, for a couple of years, maybe more, they would be aware that I have historically been a very strong UFO skeptic. I have disappointed many podcast hosts and interviewers by saying that I am extremely skeptical about the UFO phenomenon. I am not convinced that aliens are visiting us. I'm not convinced that these phenomena are real. I have not seen any evidence that convinces me that makes me change my mind. That's what I have said over and over again, to the disappointment of many people, lots of people. But now the evidence is out there. No question about it. So, what is this evidence? I mean, this evidence is out there. Now, you cannot question the fact that this phenomenon exists. News stations have reported this live. It's been caught initially a few weeks ago, live on a random newscast. I mean, there's a panel of people, news anchors sitting on around a desk and discussing something. In the background, there's a night view of the city, which is live, and you see UFOs flying around on that. You can't deny that. And then there are news stations that have set up uh, cameras with high powered lenses on tripods, and they've captured very detailed views of these phenomena, of these objects. And there's a whole multitude of different kinds of objects that we are witnessing. So there's no question anymore that these phenomena exist. Okay. Now, are these the same phenomena that people were speaking about in the 1900s? We're not sure about that, because, see, what's happening is that we are now living currently in the drone era. And there is the obvious difficulty that we're going to face of discriminating and differentiating between genuine UFO phenomena and unusual or unidentified drones that look like UFOs. Now, everybody has a drone. I mean, not everybody, but every content creator has a drone. Lots of amateurs have drones. People just for hobby purposes have drones. And you can, and companies have drones. The military has drones. There are drones that we are not aware of, drone types. There are drones that are military drones and commercial drones that come in various sizes and shapes and all that. 50-kilogram drones, 100-kilogram, 200-kilogram, 500-kilogram drones with all kinds of characteristics. So are these just drones, secret drones? So that's what we are grappling with. But what's clear is that some of these cannot be drones because they're emerging out of the ocean or flying above the ocean where there's no land nearby. Like hundreds of kilometers around, there's no land, but you see these objects there. And some of these seem to be dipping into the ocean or emerging from the ocean, which is very weird. There are drones that are hovering around. There are UFOs that are hovering around military bases, and that's weird. And anti-drone technology that normally works against these drones, which can bring the drones down, doesn't work here. And there's been this incident that a person tried to launch his own drone to get a closer view at a UFO, and the drone just immediately ran out of battery. And there have been UFOs that are hovering over, that are landing at power stations and apparently draining power. All kinds of weird phenomena are happening. And I've seen time lapses of hundreds of UFOs over New Jersey. So something is happening. It looks like there's a UFO or UAP or whatever you want to call it, invasion of New Jersey, of the US. And there are other nations that have reported these phenomena. The UK has reported lots of these phenomena. China, I've seen some videos. Argentina, and where not. I think in India, we need to look up at the sky. In India, in metropolitan cities, people just look down. They never look up. Look up, and you may find something. So that's the thing. So now the question is, what's happening? Let's analyze the possibilities logically. What could actually be happening? So, like I said, there could be two types of aircraft. One could be just drones, secret designs of drones that we're not aware of, but these are just human-made drones, high technology drones. That's one possibility. The second possibility is actual UFOs, okay, which are non-human apparently. These are the two possibilities. Now, let's go dive deeper into this. So there have been, there's been speculation on social media, on Twitter, etc., that what we are witnessing over New Jersey, which is going over the Atlantic Ocean and all that, is that these are actually military drones that are searching for apparently radioactive material. So maybe these are very large drones that have detectors, germanium, high purity germanium detectors that are looking for, and these detectors, they can typically detect gamma rays, which is something that radioactive materials, dangerous materials emit. Now, I'm not sure what the range of these HPGE detectors is, but apparently some people are claiming or speculating that these are military drones that are searching for loose nuclear material or illicit nuclear material in the New York area. Maybe that's been smuggled in, perhaps pure speculation, but maybe it's been smuggled in that's what they claim, to make dirty bombs or something. So that's one possibility. So maybe it's the US government that has unleashed its army of futuristic secret drones to search for uh, loose nuclear material that maybe terrorists or smugglers have brought into the US. Maybe that's that. Okay. That's one possibility. The other possibility is that these are anti-missile defense systems, secret anti-missile defense systems mounted on drones, perhaps, and they have been perhaps deployed as a message to the Russians after Putin recently tested a hypersonic ballistic missile. What is Oreshnik or something, which is reportedly capable of defeating NATO defenses. So that's another piece of speculation that maybe these are futuristic secret anti-missile defense systems. That doesn't make a lot of sense, but I'm just saying what people are speculating. Maybe these are secret US government weapons platforms, military weapons platforms being tested for deployment. But then why do it? Why not do it over the desert in Nevada, Area 51, or wherever? Why do it over New Jersey? It doesn't make sense, right? Maybe this is just trying to scare the people. Maybe they want the US Congress to pass very strict new drone restrictions that will prohibit citizens from flying drones at will. So maybe that's why they have unleashed this UFO invasion. Makes no sense, but that's the kind of speculation we are seeing. Then there's speculation that this could be a fake alien invasion, which is being done by the people who control the world, apparently. You create a problem, you elicit a reaction, and then you propose a solution. Then you implement a solution. So you create a fake alien invasion. You first have these drone swarms going around, UFO swarms going around New Jersey and where not. Then you make it look like there's an actual alien invasion happening. Then the reaction you will get is panic among the people of Earth. And then you propose a new solution, a one world government. So this is just pure speculation that we are seeing on the internet. There's no evidence of this. But I mean, logically, it's plausible. It may be unlikely or whatever, but it's plausible. Now, what could actually make sense from my perspective is that this is just extremely advanced technology developed by various US defense manufacturers like Lockheed Martin or General Atomics or whoever. But then why would they unleash it over the skies of New Jersey and other places? Why now? And why so many of them all over the place? Not really sure why that would be the case. I can't speculate. And there's one more piece of speculation, which there's no evidence of, that these UAPs, drones, whatever, they are alien technology that's been reverse engineered by the US. So defense manufacturers, defense contractors like Lockheed Martin, etc., they have not developed all this technology from scratch, but from what we know of theoretical physics, but they have recovered and reverse engineered alien technology, exotic alien technology. That's another piece of speculation that we have been hearing for quite some time on the internet. How far is it true? We don't know, because we don't have any evidence this way or the other way. So these are the various possibilities. What's the last possibility? Real aliens. So these are the possibilities. I don't know what's happening. Look, I don't have access to the actual data and evidence that would give us a definitive answer. In the absence of that, I can tell you what the speculations are on the internet right now. I've been following this for some time now. So logically, some of these things are very tenuous. Logically, some of these possibilities make a little more sense. The answer lies somewhere in one of these possibilities, or somewhere in between. That's what I can say. And we're gonna keep an eye on this, because this is now becoming a very, very prominent phenomenon. It's very interesting that Elon Musk has not said anything about this. I believe the US government had tried to allude, or had tried to allege, perhaps indirectly, that Iran was behind this. That Iran is sending UFOs or UAPs to the US. Makes no sense. So it's interesting that Elon Musk, the guy who owns SpaceX, the most powerful space explorer on the planet currently, it's interesting that Elon Musk, this guy, has not said a word about these phenomena. Very interesting. It's also interesting that Donald Trump has not said much about this. He recently put out a communique that there's something going on and we need to get to the bottom of this. But that's just one piece of uh, communication that is put out. Otherwise, it's been very taciturn about this particular matter. So very interesting. We're not quite sure what's happening. So it could be the US government that's behind this. It could be uh, US government having recovered alien technology and reverse engineered that, or it could be an actual alien invasion. I'm not sure what the answer is, but this phenomenon is a genuine phenomenon now, no question about it. Okay, love from Pakistan. Well, greetings from India. uh, and thank you for watching. I appreciate that. So the question is it safe to find extraterrestrial life? Their immune system and our immune system will be different. So is it risky for the survival of both us and them? And some risks you know better than me. Discuss, please, what hopefully could happen when we may interact with each other. Look, when it comes to alien biology, that's pure speculation. We have no idea what alien biology could look like, what it could be like. If we ever encounter aliens, what sort of biological system may they have? Could it be just like us, carbon based life forms? Could it be silicon based life forms? Could it be a completely different form of life? Uh, we live in this Goldilocks zone around the sun where liquid water can flow. But you could have life on Titan, which is the moon of Saturn, where you have temperatures that are below 200 degrees, below minus 200 Celsius. And you have liquid hydrocarbons, liquid methane, and all that. You could have life that could emerge out of that at extremely low temperatures compared to what we are accustomed to. And we cannot even begin to speculate about whether they have immune systems or what they have and what they may not have. Will they be DNA based life forms? That can only happen with carbon based life forms. So it's entirely purely speculative. We can't even begin to uh, speculate what kind of life forms these could be if we ever come across aliens. Obviously, if aliens exist and if they do ever come to Earth, they'll be coming from a different planet, right? And therefore, they would have to take certain precautions to ensure that they don't that because their the conditions they are accustomed to could be very different from what we have on this planet here. So they would have to take certain precautions not to get exposed to the elements here, and that could kill them perhaps. And for us also, we would have to try and figure out what kind of biology is it that we are dealing with, uh, and is it harmful to us. If there is contact between us and aliens, then it's going to be a process of trial and error for both sides. Maybe they are, if they do reach here, they'll be technologically way more advanced than us, so it'll be easier for them, it'll be much harder for us. uh, what could happen when we interact with each other? Hopefully they will come in peace, like they say, but you can never take that for granted. So yeah, if there is contact between us and an alien civilization, it should trigger alarm bells in every major capital of every sovereign nation on the earth. There are only four sovereign nations. It should trigger serious alarm bells. It will be crisis time. Okay, we can't assume that they will come in peace. So that will be a big crisis for us. Yeah. Okay, let's take a question or two from the live chat. Okay, let's take this question by Kirmil Soresam. Can India make another state or union territory out of Manipur, as Manipur is protected by UTI possidetis juris? I have no idea what UTI possidetis juris is. I'm not sure what that is. It's obviously Latin terminology, judicial terminology. I am not an expert in law, so I don't know what that is. Why would the question is, can India make another state or union territory out of Manipur? The question is, why would we want to do that? There is a crisis in Manipur right now, right? We know that. The crisis is very simple. What is the problem? We have to define it first. The problem is not that Meiteis are asking for ST status. That's not the problem. The problem is that there is an invasion of foreigners who are now squatting on Indian territory in Manipur. That's what's happened. Illegal aliens have infiltrated in the number of lakhs into India, which is Manipur, and they are in occupation of a very significant percentage of the territory of the state of Manipur. That is the problem. And the solution is to that is to evict all illegal infiltrators out of India. That's the solution. Why do we need to make a union territory to uh, make the foreigners happy? Foreigners have no right to even 1 square centimeter of Indian territory. Let's be very clear about that, right? So you can talk for hours and days about the Manipur issue. The problem is very, very simple. You can make it as complicated as you want, as many so-called experts do. They go into minute details and discuss that for hours. Big picture, the problem is very simple: illegal infiltration and occupation of Indian territory by foreigners. Because of the open borders policy that we've had since 1949, and you want to change that, it's going to take time. But that's the problem. The solution is very simple: get rid of all the foreigners. Foreigners have no right to even 1 square centimeter of Indian territory. Once that is done, the problem is gone. Then we can look forward to the future, right? So there's no question of creating a new state or union territory out of Manipur, uh, or whatever. Get rid of the foreigners, evict them back to wherever they came from. It's If they are facing issues in their home country, that is their problem, not ours. We have enough problems of our own. So yeah, Gaurav says, I think Rohit Sharma should retire now. uh, Look, cricket is very controversial. I've opined before about cricket, and people, I mean, I've got very, very, very harsh reactions on Twitter. I've been watching cricket since what? Since I was a kid, right? Not. It's one of the sports I follow. Um, and right now, we're not doing too well in Australia. Rohit Sharma hasn't performed well in the previous test that we lost to the Australians. First of all, he came back from wherever he was, but the first cardinal mistake in sports is to never the cardinal rule is never change, never tinker with a winning combination. We won the first match, and then they got rid of two guys who did not perform that well in the match, but they brought in a guy who's well past his prime. Look, Rohit Sharma has never been a great test player. He's been one of the greatest of all time in ODIs and T20s, but test matches not so great. Kohli at least performed in the first match, not in the second match. So now I think it's do or die for Rohit Sharma. We always look. I know that people in India have are in love with various players. The objective of sport is to win. I don't care if so and so guy is playing for his records or for so he wants these many runs or these many centuries or half centuries. I don't care about that. I am not interested in personal records. Absolutely not. All I win is that all I want is that India should win. And if you have to ditch one of your greats, then so be it. You have to be ruthless in these matters. The Australians have always been like this. They got rid of Dean Jones when he was in his prime for whatever reason. They retired Steve Waugh forcibly when Steve Waugh still wanted to play. That's how you do it. You always have to focus on the future. You have to focus on winning. You have to be ruthless. The nation is bigger than the individual, but in India we all worship individuals. I think Rohit Sharma should retire. I agree. Kohli should soon retire if he doesn't perform well in this series. I think you can play the IPL or whatever. You can keep watching him and enjoying his playing there, but not at the national level. We need to invest in youngsters. We have plenty of youngsters who can do way better than some players who are currently playing. So, yeah. Okay, let's go back to to the comments. Questions from the comments. Okay, Muck1169 says Bangladesh removes the security clearance required for Pakistanis to get a Bangladeshi visa. What's the strategy behind this? There's no strategy or such behind this. Okay, there is a strategy behind this, but it's not a Bangladeshi strategy. Look, the Bangladesh government is a puppet regime. It's a dictatorship. It's an autocratic puppet regime that's been installed by the Americans. Okay, and as such, they are simply puppets of the US. Mohammed Yunus is a puppet of the United States foreign establishment, state. So, Department of State. So the policy is very simple. Bangladesh now becomes East Pakistan. It will behave with India exactly the way Pakistan behaves. Pakistan, as we know, historically, sadly, it was indulging in terrorism against India for decades, all funded and financed by the US. Make no mistake about it. You could see the same happening with Bangladesh. They may, if they can, start a similar policy with India. They are obviously conducting this massacre, this genocide, this pogrom against Hindus. The press, the media is quiet mostly about it. Not all the media, not the entire media, but most of the media is quiet about this. The Western media will never report it. They are oppressing the Hindus, the indigenous Hindus of Bangladesh, the real inhabitants of Bangladesh. That's happening. And the relationship between Bangladesh and India is going to get worse over time. So the objective of the US State Department is to encircle India from all sides. There's Pakistan, that's West Pakistan. Now you create East Pakistan, that's equally hostile. And then you have this Cookie Land for Christ Project K that's going on. They're trying to carve out a de facto separate nation, Christian nation, out of Manipur, Mizoram, etc. There's the whole situation in Myanmar going on. The US has its fingerprints everywhere, no question about it. Right? So it's very simple that when you have East Pakistan, West Pakistan, who serve the same purpose and the same function of destabilizing India in a variety of ways, then they should work together, right? So why should Bangladesh now have visa restrictions or extra security clearances for Pakistanis? It's the same country essentially. So that's why this has happened. Okay. Okay, a couple of questions about Bangladesh again. Ankita and McLevin say, please share your opinion about the looming possibility of war between India and Bangladesh and direct or indirect involvement of Pakistan and China. And what could happen if East Pakistan attacks India? Would we retaliate? This time, Russia will not be at our aid. Okay. Is there a possibility of war between India and Bangladesh? Absolutely not. How can you have a war between an elephant and a butterfly? Or rather, an elephant and a mosquito? You can't have a war between an elephant and a mosquito, right? The mosquito can be a nuisance for the elephant. The mosquito can come and keep on biting the elephant and making the elephant uncomfortable and maybe give him malaria or dengue or whatever other illnesses exist. But there can be no war between the elephant and the mosquito. And no disrespect intended to any people in Bangladesh. I'm sure there are lots of good people there as well, but I'm just giving you a metaphorical representation of what's happening. So you can't have a war between an elephant and a mosquito. There's no question, there's no possibility. Bangladesh is going to serve as a nuisance for India, as a troublemaker for India. They will try and destabilize the geographical region of eastern India and India's far east, which is what we call the northeast, right? That's the role that Bangladesh will play as a proxy of the US State Department. Uh, uh, could there be direct or indirect involvement of Pakistan and China? Pakistan certainly, because Pakistan is West Pakistan and Bangladesh is now East Pakistan. So yes, they will coordinate their strategies and work together. Both are extensions or puppets or vassals of the US State Department. So there's going to be cooperation between Pakistan, East and West Pakistan, or Pakistan and Bangladesh. China, not very much. I don't see China getting involved too much in this because, yeah, if you ask me 2 years ago, 3 years ago, China was essentially the big daddy of West Pakistan. West Pakistan under Imran Khan was kind of a vassal of China. But then there was a coup in West Pakistan. Nobody realized it. Imran Khan was ousted, and Shahbaz Sharif came to power, was put in power, was put in the seat, the hot seat, the cool seat. And that's essentially a US takeover of Pakistan. And then you have another coup in Bangladesh. And Sheikh Hasina is ousted, and another pro US puppet comes to power. So you have pro US puppets on both sides. So there's going to be cooperation between the two nations. Pakistan is going to be involved. They will synergize and cooperate. China, not very much. China has lost control, lost ownership, vassalage of Pakistan, West Pakistan. And China had some cooperation going on with Bangladesh, but now Bangladesh is firmly in the camp of China's major adversary or rival, which is the United States. So you can't expect too much involvement of China in Bangladesh now. Now the next question is, what if East Pakistan attacks India? Well, it's gonna be like a mosquito trying to attack an elephant. It won't end well for the mosquito. And we will not need Russia at our side or whatever. Why do you need Russia? Why does an elephant need another elephant or a larger elephant to help him against the mosquito? Do you understand? It doesn't work. Uh, so yeah, there's no question. There's no chance of a war between India and Bangladesh. It would be suicidal for the mosquito. All right. Pranay Paul says, with Syria now under rebel control, do you think the US might attempt a Ukraine like strategy from this region against Russia in the future? What exactly is their primary interest here? Natural resources, geopolitical leverage, or a long term containment strategy against Russia? Okay, that's the question. Okay, let's take a look at the map because this is a map kind of thing. This is a map kind of question. Where's the map? Here's the map. Let me find the map. Where's the map? Okay, let me put that on the screen. Let's take a look at the map, the geography of the region, and what's going on here is the question. So we're talking about Syria, which is, if we go west from India, we cross the temporary nation, we come into Persia, and from Persia, go westwards, you have Iraq, and then you have Syria. This is the nation, right? And it's currently under, let's say, rebel control. The rebels are one of the offshoots or one of the rebranded configurations of Al Qaeda, ISIS, whatever. Okay, former terrorists or still terrorists. I mean, the guy that Al Julani, the head of the government, has been declared by the US as a terrorist in the past. The tweet still exists: find this terrorist or help us find this terrorist. But now he is on the good books of the US. In the good books of the US, he wears the same dress, the same costume that another actor wears. What's his name? Zelensky. Same kind of green olive this thing, and so on. So Syria is under US proxy control. Now, it's not direct US proxy control. There is the involvement of Israel and Turkey as well. But that's the deal. So, what let's go back to the question. What's the question? What's the US's primary interest here? Okay. So, look, Syria was Russian and Iranian proxy. Iran and Russia were cooperating in Syria. Russia has a couple of has a naval base and an air base in Syria. I think they will have to evacuate these. I'm sure they'll be allowed to do it quietly and without any fuss. But yeah, Russia loses its leverage and its presence in Syria. And Syria was the conduit through which Iran could connect with Hezbollah in Lebanon, because the northern part of Iraq, etc. I mean, Iraq is kind of, to some extent, Iran has a presence in Iraq as well because of the significant Shia population that you have in Iraq. So that's how, through Iraq via Syria, Iran could connect with Hezbollah in Lebanon. Now that is gone. So Iran has lost its leverage. Iran has lost its ability to project power here, and so has Russia. So if you zoom out, you will see that all the nations except Iran in this region, the West Asia region, are now US proxies or US allies, direct or indirect, stated or unstated, except for Iran. So Iran has lost much, if not most, of its power projection abilities in the region. They still have some power projection ability in Iraq, but that's about it. Okay. And Russia also, it's a big setback for them. It's a defeat. It's a defeat, but not a catastrophic defeat for Russia. So that is the deal. So obviously, what the US is trying to do is to expand their sphere of influence, uh, degrade Russia's capabilities in the region, and essentially they're moving the geopolitical chessboard so in such a way that Russia is retreating and they are going forward. That's what's happening. And obviously, the long end game is to defeat Russia. And even Iran is a big piece on the geopolitical chessboard, which is why Iran could very much face the heat very soon. Uh, so it's not a Ukraine like strategy, it's a different strategy. It's not about, when it comes to the natural resources, etc. I think Turkey has an eye on that, and they've been enjoying the natural resources, which is the oil and gas of the region of Syria, for quite some time. Uh, so Turkey will do that. Israel has its own agenda here, but for the US, it's all about containing Russia and probably defeating Iran. So yeah, that's the deal. Vikram Geopolitical says, Netanyahu said Israel will change the map of the Middle East. Will Israel be successful in doing this with the support of the US? Okay, let's go back to the map. Same region, Syria, right? Syria has fallen to uh, a rebranded ISIS and Al Qaeda kind of thing. Yeah, so-called rebels who were formerly called terrorists by the Americans. Now, so Netanyahu has said that Israel will change the map of the Middle East. So what's happened after Assad fell is that Israel has started expanding the buffer zone, the so-called buffer zone in the area, and they have been pounding various military locations, military assets in Syria. Syria had probably the Middle East's best anti-aircraft defenses. All of those have been taken out in wave after wave of Israeli airstrikes. They had an air force, much of which is now destroyed. The helicopters, aircraft, all have been destroyed. So Syria is no longer going to be a threat to anybody in West Asia. Just like what happened to Iraq in 2003, Iraq was permanently removed as a threat to anybody. The same thing is now happening to Syria. And Israel is expanding. See, there was this zone of contention between Israel and Syria, which was the Golan Heights, this region. Now, Israel is definitely in control of this area and they are expanding the territory that they hold. So, yeah, you could say that Israel is physically expanding its territory without making it official. They could be very close to Damascus by now, their tanks or whatever. So, they will definitely not take Damascus. There's no point doing that so overtly, but they will take control of large areas of the region. Jordan is a US ally, so Jordan is fine. And eventually, this statement that Netanyahu has made that we'll change the map of the Middle East, it could probably be aimed at Iran because the main adversary from Israel's perspective in the region, what's left, it's only Iran. So you know, I am not a fan of war. War is terrible, but it's possible that Iran could be at war with Israel or Israel plus US by this coming summer of 2025. It's possible. Yeah, that's where we are now. Vikramaditya Rathore says, what kind of geopolitical game is Erdogan playing? On the one hand, he appears friendly with Russia, he admires Putin, and then he causes the ouster of Assad, which was Russia's ally. At the same time, Turkish fighters attacked US based SDF. Considering Turkey is a NATO ally of the US, what's happening? It looks like Turkey is playing a double game against Russia and the US, the two superpowers. What's your take on this? Okay. Look, yeah, Erdogan is pretty friendly with Putin. He admires Putin, etc. That's a personal one-to-one relationship. It has no effect on geopolitical relations, international relations. It's very possible. I mean, I'm sure it's happened lots of times that the leaders of two adversarial nations have a good equation. They're good friends. They admire each other, and yet they're going to fight to the end because the national interest is paramount for a leader, not your personal interest or your personal friendship with somebody. So Erdogan is friendly with Putin. So what? Makes no real difference. He has his own ambitions for Turkey. He probably sees him as the sultan of a resurgent neo-Ottoman empire. And he's trying to expand Turkey's geopolitical footprint and power projection ability and territory in the region. And of course, Turkey, we know, is a member of NATO, an ally of the US. The Americans even have allegedly nuclear weapons deployed in Turkey, which are in American hands, not Turkish hands. So that's the kind of close relationship Turkey has with the US. And apparently, they have attacked the SDF, which is a terrorist outfit, a rebranded Al Qaeda or ISIS, which is fighting on behalf of the US in Syria, and they've taken over Syria, right? Al Julani is their boss, SDF. Yeah. So Turkey always plays this game. Look, I'll tell you what makes Turkey valuable from a NATO perspective. What makes Turkey valuable? Let's go to Turkey. Is this region, Turkey's incredible geographical region. It controls the extremely valuable choke points between the Black Sea and the Aegean Sea, which goes on into the Mediterranean. Which means that if you go to Istanbul, uh, you have the Strait of Bosphorus, which connects the Black Sea to the Sea of Marmara, and then you have the Straits of Çanakkale, or the Dardanelles Strait. Two extremely vital geographical, geopolitical choke points. And Turkey is the owner, the geographical owner of these two choke points. And that's why Turkey is so valuable. And Turkey has been rent seeking, enjoying rent seeking this geographical location. So Turkey is very valuable to the US, to NATO, uh, and Russia also has to ensure that Turkey remains on reasonable good terms with them. So Turkey can play all kinds of geopolitical games. So they have been controlling certain parts of northern Syria for the past decade plus. That's one of the things they're doing, and they would like to take more bites out of Syria now. Now that Assad has fallen, Turkey, uh, in the 1970s, I think they took over the northern part of Cyprus. They invaded Cyprus, and they did that. The Turks also have a presence in Libya and North Africa, a military presence in this region as peacekeepers allegedly. And Turkey would also like to create a pan-Turan corridor between Turkey and all the Turkic nations of Central Asia. Uh, and the one nation that's in the way is Armenia, and that's why you had wars between Turkey's proxy Azerbaijan and Armenia. So Turkey is playing a whole game, geopolitical game of its own. It has its own ambitions. Erdogan has its own ambitions, and he will obviously play the good old game of playing one giant against another to gain advantage for himself and his nation. It's a well-known, very old set of tricks in the geopolitical playbook. Okay, let's take some questions from the live chat. Um, okay, let's take this one. Sumit Jain says, did the US blunder by starting the Ukraine war, reigniting Russian patriotism, and giving them a 1945 like moment as they also thrive geopolitically and are independent of US influence? Look, technically, one could argue that Russia started the Ukraine war, right? Because Putin is the one who ordered the special military operation, which is now called the Ukraine war. But we know that he had no choice; he was forced to do this. Otherwise, Russia's national interest would have been very deeply compromised. So, yeah, we know that the US forced him to do this. They left him with no choice. Is this a blunder? I think, geopolitically, what's the aim, what's the objective in geopolitics? Geopolitics is like a sport, but it's a sport with no rules. You make up your own rules, and the more powerful you are, the more rules you can make or break. And the objective is to win what? The objective is to win complete control and domination of the entire planet. That's the objective. So from the US perspective, it's a superpower. It's a nation that has almost global power projection capabilities. They can intervene militarily almost anywhere on the planet at 60 minutes notice, 30 minutes notice, whatever, except for Russia and China. Uh, and they would obviously like to expand their sphere of influence. They would like to control everything. So the objective has always been via NATO to keep expanding eastwards until Russia's red lines are breached, and then let's see what Russia does. So they've left Russia with no option, and this kind of has transformed Russia in certain ways. Their economy has changed. There have been the sanctions that the Americans have placed against them, but the Russian economy has proven to be resilient thus far. They've been doing okay. Um, I'm sure there's a lot of social cohesiveness and patriotism in Russia. They are an autarky. They have all the natural resources you could ever ask for. So the industrial base is getting better. Russia always gets better at war as the war gets longer. So they are getting better at that. Was this a mistake? It's a mistake if Russia is able to defeat the US and get more than what you expect they would get. So if Russia wins the Ukraine war, the US has to make a compromise, and Russia either partitions the Ukraine or takes over Kiev or whatever, then it's a defeat for the US. Maybe maybe Ukraine is a disposable asset, so not much of a defeat. But if if Russia is able to expand its sphere of influence as a consequence of the beginning of this war, then it's a blunder by the US. So time will tell if it's a blunder or not. Right now, things are kind of in a state of quasi equilibrium the way it is right now. Ukraine, it's a long war scenario that we are facing in Ukraine, a stalemate kind of thing. But it's a stalemate the Russians can change like that if they want to. But they also are being very cautious. So I can't say right now if it was a blunder. If it's a blunder if Russia is able to turn the tables to the US long term as a consequence of this war being ignited. So time will tell us if this was a blunder. Right. Next question. A couple of questions about Trump. Anant Pai and Vikram Geopolitical. Why do you think Trump is going after Justin Trudeau, calling him the governor of Canada and openly pointing out that Canada is a US possession? Trump addressed Trudeau as Governor Justin Trudeau and offered to make Canada the 51st state of the US. Are the relations between the two nations going to, or the two leaders going to worsen under Trump's rule? That's an interesting question. So, what exactly has Trump done? Trump. Let's put that on the screen, shall we? Trump's tweet or the post that he put out there. Let's put that on the screen. What did Trump say? Here we have it. So, Trump said this: "It was a pleasure to have dinner the other night with Governor Justin Trudeau of the great state of Canada. I look forward to seeing the governor again soon so that we may continue our in-depth talks on tariffs and trade, the results of which will be truly spectacular for all." DJT Donald J. Trump. So that's what DJT said. Justin Trudeau, the Prime Minister of Canada, Trump called him the governor of the great state of Canada, not the independent sovereign nation of Canada, the state of Canada, which means he's implying that Canada is a state of the US. It's not an independent sovereign nation, it is a US possession. And Trudeau is merely a governor of the state. He's not a sovereign, he's not a prime minister of a sovereign nation. So Trump is essentially pointing out what, I mean, if you know what's going on in the world, you should know that Canada is not a sovereign nation. Canada is a nation that exists as a de facto sovereign nation because the US allows it to exist that way. But Canada doesn't have an independent foreign policy, independent economic policy. Everything Canada does is merely as an extension of US policy. And no Canadian leader can dare to go against any diktat of the US. Impossible. There's going to be very serious consequences, and that person will be in trouble. So, this is something that you don't point out openly. I mean, there's certain norms that you follow. You don't say that the emperor has no clothes, right? You don't say that. But Trump has gone ahead and said it. So I'm glad he has made things very clear. Canada is a vassal. It's a possession of the US. It's not an independent nation. What does it mean? Is Trump going after Trudeau? Maybe Trump doesn't like Trudeau. And I don't blame him. I don't think anybody likes Trudeau. Xi Jinping doesn't like Trudeau. Mr. Putin doesn't like Trudeau. Mr. Modi doesn't like Trudeau. I don't think any Madame Giorgia Meloni doesn't like Trudeau at all. You can't stand the guy. And I don't think Mr. Trump likes Trudeau either. No one likes him. The guy, how? Yeah. So maybe it's about personal dislike. That's why Trump may have said this. Does it mean the relations between the two nations will worsen? No, relations will remain the same. The Canadian side may say a few words here and there, but their actions will be completely 100%, 3000% aligned with US policy. It will make no difference whatsoever. Trump can taunt them all he wants. The Canadians can't do a thing about this. So I'm glad Mr. Trump cleared this up and made it very clear that Canada is not an independent sovereign nation. It's merely a US possession. Okay, this question. Okay, Surendra Gupta and Jaima Chandi. Okay. What's your view on the Atul Subhash case? Who is responsible? The judge, his wife, or the toxic feminist ideology that's being spread through cinema? I'm the mother of a 27-year-old son who's working as a probationary officer in SBI. The recent case of Atul Subhash, who took his life due to his wife, in-laws, and the corrupt judiciary, has shaken the nation. I'm really scared to marry my son to any woman like that. Yeah, it's a horrific case. This reasonably young man, an AI engineer, machine learning specialist from Bangalore. Uh, he put out a video on Rumble, more than 1 hour long, in which he detailed everything that he has gone through. He put out all the evidence that he has, very substantial evidence of what's happened to him, and then he took his life. And this is not some isolated case; it happens very frequently in India on a daily basis in various parts of India. And he was obviously facing harassment from his wife, his in-laws. They were demanding all kinds of money, and he alleges that the judge was taking the side of his wife, and he alleges that the judge was asking for bribes, several lakh rupees, and he alleges that he's already paid, I don't know how many crores to the wife allegedly, and they keep on asking for more, and that sort of thing. So he's left with no choice, and they've taken his son away from him, and so on. So he has said that his wife, his in-laws, and the judiciary and the judge, that's what he has said, are responsible for his suicide. They have actually induced him to commit suicide. They've encouraged him to commit suicide on multiple occasions, as that's what he alleged. So he's put all the evidence out in public very meticulously. He was a very meticulous person, and he's taken his life. Extremely sad, extremely tragic situation, and this is something that happens very routinely in India. He's not the only person who's gone through this, and it happens to men, not women. I mean, I'm not saying women don't face harassment or any problems, but this is something that happens to men more than women. So what's going on? So who's responsible for what happened to him? I think it's the system that is responsible. The laws are heavily biased towards women. Why are the laws heavily biased towards women? And if a woman makes an allegation, everything rains down on the man. Everything that can go wrong will go wrong to him. If a man makes an allegation against a woman, no one takes him seriously, and nothing is done. So they will take the woman's word if she makes an allegation, but never the man's word. And men must suffer. Apparently, that's how the entire system is constructed. The legal system, the laws are biased against men. So why did this happen? First of all, it's because there is this narrative that's been going around in our education system, in our media, etc., that in India women are oppressed. It's the feminist narrative, and women are oppressed by men because India is a misogynistic, patriarchal society. We are a society with serious defects. We are a backward, primitive, barbaric, misogynistic, patriarchal, evil society. And not society, but our culture is like that, Hinduism. And that's why we must make laws that are very strongly pro-women and very strongly anti-men. And then the judiciary typically will take the side of the woman, but not the man. And that's why these laws exist. And there are all kinds of loopholes apparently in the judicial process. And it's always the men who's the victim. Now, I'm not saying that women are never victims. I'm sure there are lots of cases in a country of 1.4 billion in which women have been oppressed. And maybe because of a few such cases, such laws were made. But these laws can be very easily weaponized by unscrupulous people. And so that's what's happening. So who's responsible for this? I think in India, when something goes wrong, the responsibility is spread out across the system, not one person. In this case, he has been able to name the judge, allegedly. Right? So he's alleged that the judge is corrupt and so on. But overall, the system, the laws, who passed the laws? The parliament, right? It's not one person, the whole parliament passed the law. And it's not one law, it's multiple laws. So there is that, and then there is the entire legal system that interprets the laws in various different ways and so on. So you can't pin down responsibility on one person. The entire system is biased and allegedly corrupt. And of course, like you mentioned, this toxic feminist ideology that's been spread through cinema, that's been spread through the education system. You know, you have to have laws that are equal for men and women. Equal. But why are men and women not equal under the in the eyes of the law? I mean, isn't that the whole point? Or maybe it's not the point. Maybe the point of feminism, etc., is to create a divide between men and women, to rip society apart, to tear society apart, and to atomize society. And in our civilization, in our culture, the family is the unit of society. But in feminist ideology, in the Western worldview, the individual is the unit of society. And to make it happen that way, you have to destroy the family, the institution of the family. You tear it apart. Look at the West. Marriages invariably end in divorce. Most kids are raised by single mothers, not single fathers, single mothers typically. And society is totally bankrupt over there. So they want to create the same system here. So it's the education system, it's the cinema, the media, the entertainment industry, it's the parliament, it's the people you elect to parliament, it is the political parties you elect. I'm not naming anyone, maybe they're all part of this. Nari Shakti, okay, but what about all Shakti? um, and so much more. And the judiciary, they interpret laws in their own way. I'm not sure how right or wrong it is. Who am I to judge? But yeah, so it's a terrible situation, and men are facing the brunt of this increasingly. So what's my view? I think it's terrible. We need to reform everything. We need to have laws that are equal for everybody, irrespective of your gender. I'm sure it can be done, but no, they won't do it. So yeah, so many problems in this country like this. Yeah. The second question: I'm the mother of a 27-year-old son who's working as so and so, and I am really scared to marry my son to any woman like that. Yeah, obviously you'll be scared. Obviously you'll be scared. I completely understand. So what's the solution to this? Obviously your son has to marry, right? You can't keep him unmarried. Obviously he will want to marry. Maybe he does. Hopefully he will want to marry. Generally you want to marry, right? You want to have a partner, a spouse. So what do? Obviously there's the danger that this sort of thing may end up uh, happening to him. That's the fear. It's a very real fear because there's a very real danger. So what do? Look, you have to understand it. It's not very complicated actually. If we look at it from a certain perspective, a marriage between two individuals is an alliance between two families. Okay, and if something goes wrong, usually it's because there is a lot of family involvement, and one of the parties, the party that is doing the oppressing of the spouse, that is doing the oppressing of the partner, generally their family is involved, as it was in this case, the Atul Subhash case. So if so these days we have a lot of what do we call love marriages. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with love marriage. Okay, love marriages are perfectly good. But if you are going to have a love marriage, you have to understand what kind of background your partner is coming from. You have to meet the family, you have to understand the family culture, etc., very well. And that has to match to a certain extent with your own culture and your own family's culture, the upbringing and all that. If the two families can't get along, it's not going to work. And it could not work long term. And generally, if there is something wrong, you can see it among the family members. So you have to do your due diligence. In arranged marriages, it always used to happen that way. You know, there was always first a family to family contact, and you would ask everybody knew about the other family, and you would do a lot of due diligence, understand everything, and then you see whether the two families are compatible, and then whether the two individuals are compatible. But now apparently arranged marriages are bad. So now that's where we are. And then you have to go online to shadi.com or whatnot.com to find a partner because the old system is gone, and because so many people are transplanted to places where their family doesn't exist, like metropolitan cities and all. So they have to find a spouse on their own. So there's all this thing. The main thing I would like to say is that to ensure that something like this doesn't happen to your sons, make sure that you understand the other family very well and see that if there are any red flags over there. That's what I would say. But yeah, the India system is ridiculously bad. Not just the education system, not just the entertainment industry, everything. I mean, so much needs to be reformed. The laws are terrible. Many of these laws are terrible. They are so strongly biased against one gender. They have to be gender neutral. Laws have to apply to everyone equally. You can't have special favors for one gender at the expense of the other gender. That's terrible. What are you encoding in the laws? It's going to destroy society in the long run. That's what we are seeing now. Terrible situation. Okay, let's take some questions from the live chat. Nick says, be a responsible mother too. Yeah, certainly. I've already spoken about UFOs, so we will not take that. That's the first question I took today, I think. First or second. What other questions do we have? I'm not sure. Ravi says, this is a light, humorous question. Are you a member of the deep state of India? I don't see any deep state existing in India. If there is one, I certainly am not. I'm not part of that. Okay, what else do we have? Or should I go back to the Okay, Manan Panchal says, as an Indian living in Europe, what can we do to improve the image of Indians amongst foreigners? I've noticed a lot of discrimination lately on social media against Indians. Look, if you are an Indian living in a foreign country, you have to understand that you are an ambassador of India in that country, de facto. You may not be sitting in the embassy or the consul or any of the consulates, but as an individual, you're an ambassador of your country and your culture and your civilization in that country. So you have to be the best version of yourself. There are many Indians I've seen who go abroad and they behave in very boorish manner, boorish fashion. They will litter like as if they're littering in India, or they will speak loudly and be obnoxious and whatnot. Behave well. If you're living there, you're not just a tourist, you're living there, then always have good manners and uh, make make the locals admire you in whatever way. Either as a professional, if you are working in a company there, then work harder, work better than the others. If you're socializing, always be well groomed, neat, healthy, fit, all that. Always that sort of thing. So you have to always put your best foot forward. That's what you can do as an individual to improve the image of India among foreigners. And if every Indian does that, then the image will change very rapidly. uh, the problem is that lots of Indians behave poorly when they travel abroad. I'm talking about tourists right now. uh, in a nation like Bali, for example, the Balinese people always saw us Indians as their cultural kin, as their cultural relatives. But when travel to Bali became cheap and lots of Indians started visiting there, they would try and, you know, Indians behaved in a very cheap manner. Try and get the best deals for everything. If something costs, let's say, 100 Indonesian rupiahs, they'll say, why don't you give it to me for 20 Indonesian rupiahs, and try and bargain and haggle and harass the hell out of the locals. And so the image of India has taken a beating in Bali. Imagine in a place like Bali, the image of India has taken a beating. The only Hindu part of Indonesia, where Hindus are in a majority. So Indians need to behave well in a civilized manner, in a respectful manner when they travel abroad. And if you're living abroad, always put your best foot forward and try to be far better than the locals in every way possible. That way you can improve the image of India. Let's go back to the questions. Okay, Subhamoy Mandal says, how to win logically in a situation? For example, for failure, for rejections, or for not achieving expectations for something, when the brain is occupied emotionally. Yeah, what do you do in a situation where you experience a setback in life? Right? What do you do when things don't go wrong? How do you succeed from that position? And especially when you are feeling emotionally down, when something goes wrong, emotionally it's gonna affect you very badly. So what do you do about this, right? And how do you win from there? So you have to, okay, it's easy to say be mentally strong, be this, be that, all that, fine. Control your emotions. Emotional people usually fare poorly, etc. It's easy to say all that. It's cliched. But what's the way of getting out of of a situation logically? So if you have tools, logical tools that will enable you to find the right solution, then you will first resort to that instead of sitting down and crying and being emotional, right? The problem is most people don't have those tools, those logical tools, problem solving tools. So let me give you an example. Yeah. So let's say it's the 1930s. You are an Indian freedom fighter, revolutionary freedom fighter, genuine freedom fighter. No, not that fake ahimsa nonsense. You're an Indian revolutionary. And it's occupied India, right? British occupied India, 1930s. So you and your friends, you and your comrades, you break into a British occupation police station to steal guns and ammunition. Now your comrades, they take the guns, they break into the place, they take the guns, ammunition, etc. But you and another comrade are caught by the British, and they take you to jail, and they separate you. And this very wonderful, nice British jailer, he tells you and your comrade the same thing. He offers you both a deal, the same deal, but separately in separate rooms. So he says, you were caught on police station premises, you're trespassing. This carries a 1 year sentence. But I know you and your friends have stolen the guns, but I can't prove it. I don't have the evidence. I need your testimony. I need your confession. So you are facing a 1 year sentence, but if you confess, I will set you free, but your partner will get a 10-year sentence. And I'm offering your partner the same deal. If both of you confess, your individual testimony is no longer gonna hold, and both of you will get a 3-year sentence. So when you find yourself in this situation, you're gonna be terrified. You're gonna be fearful. You will be dejected, and you'll probably break down mentally that I'm facing a 10-year jail sentence, or I'm facing God knows what in the jail, 1 year, 3 years, or 10 years, right? So should you just break down emotionally, or should you resort to logic, right? So you have to first tell yourself that if you are in jail for 10 years, you can't serve the nation. So your priority has to be to minimize your jail time. And you are not sure about your partner. You don't know whether he is reliable, whether he will stay quiet, whether he will confess, whether he will break down under pressure, mental pressure. You don't know what's going to happen. So the question is, what strategy should you choose? What strategy should each prisoner choose? Okay. So let's actually try and calculate what strategy the prisoners must choose. Let's open an Excel sheet and let me tell you how to logically do this thing. Okay, how to logically find a solution in a bad situation. So let's open an Excel sheet. Here is a blank Excel sheet. Let's zoomify in there. Okay. So you essentially have two prisoners, right? You are a prisoner and your friend is a prisoner. So you are P1, let's say, and you have two choices. Okay, be quiet or confess. And your comrade, prisoner 2, also has two choices: be quiet or confess. So we're gonna put it all here. Okay, prisoner 2 also has quiet and confess. Now if you're quiet and your comrade is quiet, you both get a 1 year sentence. So I'm putting 1 for both. If you are quiet and prisoner 2 confesses, then you get a 10-year sentence and this guy gets nothing, he's out. If you confess and the other guy stays quiet, you get 0 years, he gets 10 years. And if both of you confess, it's 3 years each. So what should you do is the question, right? So to answer this question, you have to essentially you have to consider each choice in isolation. So let's see things from P1's perspective, that is prisoner 1's perspective. Let's assume that he knows that P2 will stay quiet. Okay, let's assume that he knows that P2 will stay quiet. And so let's not consider at all what happens to P2. You are only concerned with what happens to you. So instead of P2's 1, we'll put a question mark here. And over here also we will put a question mark. So we know that P2 will stay quiet. So if P1 stays quiet, he gets a 1-year sentence. If P1 confesses, he gets freedom, 0 years. So clearly confession is a good strategy for P1 if P2 remains quiet. But what if P2 confesses? So let's look at that scenario. Okay, let's look at that scenario. We will take this and put it here. So now we know that now P1 knows that P2 will confess. So P1, if he stays quiet, he's going to get 10 years. If he confesses, he's going to get only 3 years. And we'll put question marks here because we're not concerned about what happens to the other guy. This is just logic. So once again, confession is the better option. Here also, confession is the better option. So for prisoner 1, irrespective of what prisoner 2 does, confession is the better option. This is simply logic. Now let's look at things from P2's perspective. Okay, let's look at things from P2's perspective. So once again, let's copy this and put it here. And let's say that P2 knows that P1 will stay quiet. So in that case, what happens? So in that case, we'll put question marks here and here. So from P2's perspective, he knows P1 will stay quiet. So if P2 stays quiet, he will have 1 year. If P2 confesses, he will have 0 years in jail. So confession is the better option. And once again, let's see what happens if P1 confesses. So we'll once again put question marks here. And we'll once again put a question mark here. So if P1 confesses, then if P2 stays quiet, he gets 10 years. If he confesses, he gets 3 years. So it's clear that in both cases, even for P2, confession is the better option. And for P1 also, confession is the better option. So if you look here, confession is 3-3. Both guys get 3 years. And if you stay quiet, both guys take 1 year, get 1 year. So why is confession the better option? Clearly, quiet is better than confess. However, the problem is that from a logical perspective, a promise to remain silent is not sustainable. So the quiet option, both guys staying quiet, that option, that outcome is inherently unstable. And the option for both to confess is an inferior solution, but it is sustainable. So both prisoners, you and your comrade, need to confess, and that is the right solution. There is no morality here, there is no emotion here, it's just logic. So what I've just showed you is essentially the first lesson you will be taught in game theory. So if you want to know how to win logically in a situation where you have failed, you have to learn game theory. It's all logic. There's no emotions there. And you can learn game theory in 2 weeks if you study 2 hours a day. It's not that difficult. All you need is basic math. You can learn game theory in 2 weeks. Take a textbook, learn it. Once you have that tool in your arsenal, you will, and you find yourself in a bad situation, your first response will not be to cry or to feel dejected. It will be to find a solution via game theory. So my point is, if you want to win logically in any situation of failure, learn game theory, learn logic, learn how to apply these learnings in real life situations. That's how you win logically in any situation. All right, it's all about logic and causality. Learn game theory. It's not that difficult. Okay, let's take some more questions from the comments. What do we have? I have no idea how much money is sufficient to retire in 2035. Look, okay, there's this question. Whatever the name is. How much money will be sufficient to retire in 2035? Also, once one becomes financially free in life, what to do, how to deal with the meaninglessness of life? It's a big question. Okay, 2 questions in one. Look, in today's money, In India, if you want to have retirement kind of bank balance, you would need a few crores so that you never have to work again in your life, and your dependents also never have to work again in your life. Maybe 5-10 crores, and then you live modestly within your means, and you can invest some of it, and you'll have an income for life essentially. Maybe 5-10 crores you may need. In 2035, we don't know what the exchange rate of the Indian rupee versus gold or versus the US dollar will be. So I don't know about that 2035. In today's money, if you want to have a reasonably secure life, um, maybe 5-10 crores is enough. I know it's a huge amount of money. Most people have never seen a crore, but that's the kind of situation we live in today. Yeah, that's the kind of value money has today. So if you extrapolate that to 2035, so ask yourself a very simple question. Let's say hypothetically, 10 crores is what you want to have in your bank balance. Okay, bank account. Ask yourself a very simple question. How much gold can you buy for 10 crore rupees? Let's say it is X kilos or X grams, let's say. So let's say you can buy X grams of gold for 10 crore rupees. Then that same X grams of gold, whatever it is worth in rupees in 2035, that's the money you need in 2035. So I think you have to invest in things like gold. Not all of it, but a certain amount at least of your money you have to invest in gold, or such assets that don't really lose value over time. Gold is never going to lose its value, you know that? And gold is appreciating in value. So I think that's the kind of thing you need to have. Maybe 5-10 crores in today's money. How to deal with the meaninglessness of life? It's look, why is life meaningless? Why does it have to be meaningless? You have to find your own meaning in life. Historically, our culture, our civilization, it used to tell us what the meaning of life is, but today everybody is adrift because we don't know our culture. We are completely deracinated, rootless. It's not your fault, anyone's fault. Our education system has ensured that we are completely disconnected from our culture. So, and that's why we don't know what's the meaning of life, and we are lost. Yeah, we are all victims. We are all victims in that manner. So, what to do? You have to find your own way, your own meaning of life. Either you can become religious, or read about our culture, which tells you exactly what life is, or you have to find your own definition of meaning in life. Maybe for some people, meaning in life is to have a big goal and work towards that and achieve that goal. Hopefully, maybe I want to have $100 million by the age of so and so. That's a big goal, and that gives you meaning in life. Or I want to build something. I want to build a new company and have this sort of revenue. Or I want to start a university, let's say, in so many years, or whatever. Have some big ambitious goal, which is very hard to achieve, and then work very hard towards that. That can give you meaning in life. Or maybe I want to have these number of kids, and they should all be settled very well, and their life should be happy. Maybe that's a goal. So you have to find your own meaning in life if you are completely disconnected from your heritage, your culture. So if you don't find meaning in life, then it's going to be very hard to live life. You'll feel clueless. You'll feel aimless. You'll feel like you're wandering off drift, and that's not a good situation to be in life. Okay, so find meaning. How do you start? How do you begin the process of finding meaning in life? You have to first know who you are. Most people don't know who they are. They spend their whole lives. They go through their entire lives without really knowing who they themselves are. How can you know who you are? You have to spend time alone. There are lots of people I know who are scared of being alone. They are frightened of being alone. Learn learn how to enjoy being with yourself. Then try to understand yourself. Who am I? What are my likes? What are my dislikes? What are my strengths? What are my weaknesses? What are my hopes? What are my aspirations? What did I want to do when I was a little kid? What did I love? What did I enjoy? And that maybe gives you some kind of purpose and path in life. So it's a process. You won't be able to get the answer in 1 hour, 1 day, 1 week. It's a process. Maybe it'll take you a year or so. Maybe it'll take you 3 months. But you have to introspect and do that, and then you have to decide what life means for you. Okay, right. Okay. Next question. Ritik says, why do highly ambitious people with average talent achieve greatness in the long term, while extremely talented people without ambition end up with just average or above average success in life? Talent is of no use if you are lazy, if you are not capable of working hard, if you're not willing to work harder than anybody else. Because as you rise higher in life, as you achieve more, you will find that everybody is talented at that level. So, what differentiates you from the others? How much work you're willing to put in, how hard you're willing to work. Uh, you will see so many talented people who don't succeed in life. You will see so many talented sports people. I'm sure you can name a few just like that, who were super talented but failed, did not achieve what they were capable of. Pakistan, let's talk about Pakistan cricket. Mohammed Amir, he burst onto the scene as a left arm fast bowler about 10, 12, 15 years ago. Incredibly talented. It looked like he will go way beyond Wasim Akram. Where is he today? Incredibly talented person. But perhaps something wrong with his attitude, perhaps something wrong with his work ethic, whatever. And you will see, on the other hand, people with average to not great talent, but who are super hardworking and who will go ahead of everyone. So my point is, talent is useless without the willingness to work incredibly hard. Okay, and you can only work incredibly hard if you're incredibly ambitious. Otherwise, you will not be motivated to work super hard. So you need ambition, you need the work ethic, the willingness to work really hard, to work and to put in more work than anybody else. And then if you also are talented, then nobody can beat you. So yeah. Okay, Pranay Paul says SpaceX's growth in launch numbers is nothing short of revolutionary, going from one launch in 2006 to 100 in 2024 thus far. How do you see this relentless space shaping the future of space exploration and the global space economy? Does this level of dominance by a private company indicate a shift in power dynamics traditionally held by governments and space programs? And how should India respond to this new era of private sector driven space advancements? Yeah, SpaceX, I've spoken about this many times. It is what it's doing is revolutionary. They have done more launches this year than India has ever done in its entire career. ISRO has ISRO did its first launch in 1979, and since 1979 until today, ISRO has done, I think, 97 or 98 launches of rockets. And SpaceX has done more launches, more rocket launches this year than ISRO has done throughout. So yeah, that's where we are. So SpaceX has taken the world by storm. Now, does it mean that private companies are gonna be more powerful than governments now? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. There is no change, no shift in power dynamics. Traditionally, governments own space programs, but now these private companies who have space programs, and that's why private companies are more powerful than governments. No. See, Elon Musk is the sole owner of SpaceX, as far as I can remember. I think he is, right? SpaceX is not publicly traded. So Elon Musk owns SpaceX, at least the majority of SpaceX. And he's a US citizen. Now, Spa- if SpaceX were doing things that are not useful to the US government, the US government can shut things down. If SpaceX decides that we will do work that will benefit all humanity, not just the government of the US, not just the citizens of the US, but humans all over the planet, we will help equally everybody. You think the US government will allow that? No. SpaceX is able to succeed because the US government wants it to succeed, because the US government directly or indirectly owns everything. Look at OpenAI. OpenAI, right? ChatGPT, they're the guys, they're the ones who, that's the company that has created ChatGPT. There's a retired US government guy, general or whatever, who's on board the company. Why do you think he's on board the company? Because, see, what the US does is they allow a couple of players in a sector. In AI, there'll be like 2-3 players, big players. No more than that will be allowed. Only the government sanctioned companies, the companies favored by the US government will be allowed, and they will do exactly what the government tells them. And other companies, if they're trying to launch a new startup in AI, they should just forget about it, because the field is now filled up. Similarly, with space launches, SpaceX does everything now. NASA, I don't know why it even exists. Yeah, they still have these programs, these scientific programs and all that. They continue with that, but uh, so SpaceX essentially, whether you realize it or not, whether it is official, formal, legal or not, it's owned by the US. So these are simply extensions of the US policy. And SpaceX has Starlink, thousands of satellites in Earth orbit. You think it's only for giving for providing internet, space internet? I'm sure these satellites all have surveillance capabilities of various kinds. And these satellites probably give the US the ability to conduct 24 by 7 surveillance of the entire globe. I'm speculating, I don't have any evidence, but satellites can be multi-purpose, right? And with the advances in technology, you don't need a lot of space on a satellite or a lot of weight on the satellite to have extra functionality. So SpaceX is powerful, yeah, but it's an extension of the US government. So I don't see these power dynamics changing at all. This only makes the US government more powerful. It doesn't take power away from them, it augments their power. That's where we are. And you could say that Elon Musk is kind of a member, a visible member of that entity that everyone speaks about, the deep state. Okay, Sudeep Kumar Roy says, how did India fool the CIA and the deep state and go nuclear? You're talking about Pokhran 2 in 1998, right? Let's go to the map and take a look at Pokhran 2. At Pokhran, the region, the geographical region. So it's in Rajasthan, isn't it? Where in Rajasthan? Let's simply search for it. Pokhran. Pokhran, Rajasthan, and we zoom into it. So it's a village, and over here nearby you have the location where everything happened. Let's take a look at the satellite images. What do we have here? Okay, Pokhran nuclear test location. Pokhran 1, and this may be Pokhran 2 perhaps. There's a helipad over here, and so on. So this is where it happened. Okay. So India did its first nuclear test in 1974. It was called Operation Smiling Buddha or something. And after that, the Indian government put that on ice and said that we have demonstrated our technological capabilities, and that's it. We are a peaceful nation. We don't want nuclear weapons. We just wanted to show that we can do it. And then we went to sleep. And then in 1998, when Prime Minister Vajpayee came to power, he immediately instructed the scientists, the engineers at BARC, Baba Atomic Research Center, and DRDO and whoever else, everybody, to put together a number of nuclear devices that would be tested as soon as possible. And that's how the test happened. Now, how did India fool the CIA and deep state and all? So at the time, the Americans already had surveillance satellites, spy satellites that would, and Pokhran was an area of special interest because they knew that the first test happened there. And if you want to do a nuclear test, which is an underground test, you have to start digging the place and dig shafts and do a lot of activity to prepare for the test. And if you do that, it's going to be very easily visible on satellite images. And then you obviously have to transport the nuclear weapons from BARC, Baba Atomic Research Center in Mumbai, all the way to Rajasthan. And you have to obviously ensure that these weapons remain safe. So you'll have a big armed escort and all. So that's also very visible. So that these are telltale signs, red flags that will immediately set the alarm bells ringing in Washington or wherever, and they will know that they would have come to know that India is planning to do a nuclear test, and then they can apply tremendous pressure and prevent India from doing it in a variety of ways. So the key was to ensure that they never got wind of the fact that we are planning a test. So what the government of India did was that all the preparations at Pokhran were done in the night. All the equipment that was used to dig the shaft and all that was used in the night and moved back far away before daybreak. All the sand and the soil that came out of the shafts It was all arranged meticulously to look like sand dunes. And in Rajasthan, in Pokhran, that area, you have sand dunes, naturally occurring sand dunes. So it was all made to look like that. So that's how, um, and routine activities continued in the region. So the Americans never got to know that something is happening here. Then the nuclear weapons, the devices, the devices themselves, were moved from BARC in Mumbai to the airport in Mumbai under very light guard, in unmarked trucks, just regular trucks. And they were flown to, I think, Jaisalmer or wherever by a military aircraft. Just a routine military flight. And then they were transported to the Pokhran range, also under almost no escort, no security. And that's how the CIA was fooled. And when this happened, everybody was caught off guard, including the Americans, until Prime Minister Vajpayee, I think in the evening, announced in a press conference that India has conducted 3 underground nuclear tests and so on. It's a very famous video clip that is available on YouTube. So that's how India was able to fool the CIA in the deep state and test those nuclear weapons. Right. Next question. How do we have different colors in the universe? What's the smallest thing that has its own color? Do different types of atoms have their own colors, and we derive colors from there? What are colors? What is color? Color is, see, what we perceive as color, what our eyes, what our mind perceives as color is simply electromagnetic waves of different wavelengths and frequencies. Frequency, wavelengths, two sides of the same coin. So electromagnetic waves have very characteristic wavelengths and frequencies, and these frequencies are interpreted by our eyes and our mind as colors. But the real world, there's no color, it's just electromagnetic waves. But to make the world appear similar to us, we color code it in as actual color. So you have red, and you have blue, and you have brown and yellow and white and whatnot, all that. So we don't have colors, we have electromagnetic waves of different wavelengths and frequencies. Some of these are in the infrared range, which we can't see. Some of them are in the ultraviolet range that we can't see. Some of these are extremely high frequency waves called gamma rays and so on. So that's why we have different colors. We perceive colors in the universe because the universe is filled with photons of different wavelengths. What's the smallest thing that has its own color? I don't think electrons have a color. I don't think protons. So electrons, protons, neutrons don't have color. But atoms have color. Why do atoms have color? It's because atoms can emit electromagnetic radiation. Atoms can emit photons. So that's why atoms, if they emit a photon, they emit light of a certain color. So the hydrogen spectrum, it's very Lyman, Balmer, Paschen, bracket, fund series and all that. If you study physics at the college level, you will memorize that stuff. So you have all these. If you look at the hydrogen atom and you analyze it in a spectrometer, you have all these series of bands of light and all that. And the sodium spectrum is very famous. The sodium doublet yellow, the distinctive characteristic color yellow. So these are all the consequence of photons being emitted by these various elements: hydrogen, sodium, etc. If you look at the sodium metal, it looks brownish. And if you look at copper, for example, copper, not sodium, sodium looks whitish. If you look at copper is an element made up of copper atoms. It looks brownish in color. Sodium, but copper sulfate looks blue in color. So it depends on the kind of light, the frequency of the light that is emitted when the atoms or molecules are excited. So that's why different types of atoms have different kinds of elements, actually, not atoms, but elements have different colors. That's why it is so. Yeah. Okay, let's take some more questions from the comments, from the live chat. McLovin says, is there a book to learn game theory for non-math people? Look, the maths that is involved in game theory is very, very basic math. You don't need calculus. You don't need differential equations. You don't need linear algebra or anything. You just need basic. You don't even need trigonometry. to do game theory, just basic math. Is algebra needed? Maybe to a certain extent. Basic algebra maybe needed, perhaps, if I recall. But yeah, so don't be worried about the math. The math in game theory is pretty simple. If you have a high school education, probably you have it covered. Is there a book? Look, I don't remember any book for game theory. You go to Amazon and you search for game theory textbooks. Pick the one with the highest ratings, and it should not be a book with three ratings, all 5 star. Should be a book with, let's say, 100 or 50 plus ratings, which is above 4 stars. Then it tells you that that book is reasonably good. um, I don't remember right now. It's been a long time since I studied game theory, but yeah, it's something you can learn fast. You can go on Amazon or whichever website you buy from, and just search for game theory textbooks, and pick the one which has lots of ratings and high ratings. And it should, and preferably keep it small. There are textbooks with like 300 pages, 400 pages long. Don't go for those. Go for a slim textbook that just cuts to the chase and gives you the basics. Yeah, so I don't remember any, but that's how you would find a good textbook for game theory. And that's the same question that Shanks is asking. Uh, a book to learn game theory. Let's go to Amazon, and if I can do that. Uh, so I'm opening the Indian website, the Indian Amazon, okay? And let's go to books. And now let's search for game theory. Game theory. So what do we have? We have this book which has 36 ratings and it's 3.9. I would prefer games that have 4 plus star ratings. This is a very venerable book by John von Neumann and Oscar Morgenstern. It's a very old book. It has 4.4 stars out of 5 and 103 reviews, which is good. This one seems good. Game Theory by Stephen Taddelis, 162 reviews, 4.5. What's the page length? How many pages? 416. It's too much for me. 416 is too much. Game Theory, a very simple introduction, and so on. So I think you should look at this and see what's the page, how many pages these books have. So, for example, this book has 4 out of 5, which is decent, and it has 100 pages. So maybe it's good, but does it have the math, or is it simply? Yeah. So essentially, that's how you would do it. That's how you would do your research about game theory textbooks. I don't remember any right now, so I can't tell you the names. It's been too long, but yeah, that's how you would go about doing it. Find books with very good reviews and high ratings. Okay, let's see. Game Theory 101 is a good book. Okay, good. All right. SN says, I'm 19 years old. I'm in college. I struggle with loneliness. I have no connections or friends, and I have failing grades. I have bad habits like smoking. What do you suggest I do? Okay, yeah. You have to turn your life around, and pretty rapidly. So you have to ask yourself, why do you have failing grades? Why are you addicted to something like smoking? Why are you lonely? Do you have failing grades because you are unhappy, or you're facing some problems in life, in family, at home, or because of some financial problems? So I don't know what exactly it is that is causing these symptoms: loneliness, no connection with friends, bad grades, and bad habits. These are symptoms of something deeper. Maybe it's you're not happy at home, perhaps. I'm guessing. Okay, I don't know you, but what could possibly cause something like this? Maybe your financial situation isn't great, or maybe your parents, you don't get along well with your parents, or maybe something else. Not sure what it is. So whatever is the root cause of these issues, you have to identify that, and you have to address that. You have to solve that. And once the root cause goes away, it will be easier to change these things. Like, see, why does somebody typically have failing grades? Maybe they don't study. I mean, you will have failing grades only if you don't study, or if you don't study properly. If you have the time needed to study, but you're distracted then you will have failing grades. But if you don't have the time because of other problems, then also you will have failing grades. And similarly, the other thing. So you have to find the root cause of these symptoms and address that root cause. And then once that is addressed, then you have to I, take each of these symptoms individually and address that. So how do you quit smoking? There's no, I think it's only through willpower that you can quit smoking. You can take those chewing gums, right? Nicotine chewing gums and all, or patches or whatever that can help you beat the addiction. Uh, so that's how you do supposedly quit smoking. Failing grades, you have to concentrate, you have to find time to study and study regularly. You have to be disciplined. If you have no connections and friends, then you have to kind of change your personality and try to be more outgoing and try to find something in common with other people, etc. So it's not possible for me to give you a solution right away without knowing you in person. But first of all, you have to identify the root cause of all these problems. Generally, there are lots of disparate problems that are seemingly disconnected, but they are all tied to one single big problem you have in life. You first find that, address it, solve it, and then once it is solved, then it will be easier for you to address all these other issues. I wish you the best, my friend. I wish you the best. Do well in life. Okay. Okay, let me go back to some of the questions I've taken from the live chat. Okay, Sunil says a couple of weeks ago, a Maori leader, politician, MP, performed the haka dance in the New Zealand parliament. Are the Maori people different from the Australian Aborigines? That's a good question. So let's go to the map. Let me put the map on the screen and let's find out the region that we're talking about. So, where's the map? Here's the map. The Maori people are native to New Zealand. Okay. Uh, and the haka dance is a traditional war dance that they perform. If you have ever watched rugby, then the New Zealand team, it's called the All Blacks in rugby. They are known to perform the haka dance before a match starts in front of their adversaries, their opponents, and it's kind of the objective is to intimidate the adversary. So the Maori have historically been a warlike people, and they, according to the evidence that we have, it looks like they first arrived in New Zealand around somewhere around the 1200s or 1300s, somewhere around that time. And where did they come from? They came from further eastwards. They are the Maoris are Polynesian people. The origin of the Polynesian people seems to be in Taiwan, about 5,000, 6,000 years ago. And from there, the Polynesian people apparently spread all across the Pacific region. In Hawaii, you have the Hawaiian people who are a Polynesian people. If you go to Hangaroa, which is, I believe, Easter Island, you had Polynesian people there. They're not there anymore. If you look at French Polynesia, Samoa, etc., Tonga, all are inhabited. New Caledonia, all are inhabited by Polynesian peoples. So the Maori people are a Polynesian people. They first arrived about 800 or so years ago in New Zealand, and they are not related to the Australian Aboriginal people. The true natives, the true indigenous people of Australia are the so-called Australian Aborigines, and they first appeared or arrived in Australia about 50 or 60,000 years before today. So the Maori arrived in New Zealand roughly 800 years ago, and the Australian natives first arrived in Australia about 50 or 60,000 years before today. Huge, huge difference. Okay, so the Maori are very different from the Australian Aboriginal people. Crazy Dude says, do you think India should have land redistribution? Due to centuries of colonization, the zamindar system imposed by the Turks, etc., land ownership, especially in regions like Punjab, etc., has been given predominantly to the elites, the hand-picked elites of the foreign colonizers, who disproportionately own majority of land, leaving the common people with little remaining. Very good question. Today in India, most people don't have land. Most people struggle to buy a one bedroom flat in a metropolitan city. Lots of people in this country, maybe the majority of people, don't actually own land. Many people live on rent and all that. Why is that? 1,000 years ago, everybody had land. Everybody had ancestral land that was passed on from their ancestors, and everybody had land. So what happened? Then you had the Turks who came in, who colonized India, and they took away they stole the land from the natives and gave it to zamindars, their hand-picked elite, who would then tax the natives and collect the money and pass it on to the sultanate. And that's what happened. And then you had the Europeans who came in, the British came in. The British imposed the Rayatwari system, the Riot Act, the Rayatwari system, which essentially rendered every person in India landless. They took away the land, and then they allowed people to do subsistence farming on small parcels of land, and then to give a back-breaking amount of revenue to the British. So that's what happened in the past 1,000 or so years, 700 or so years. So that rendered us landless. And then after 1947, after the transfer of power from the colonizers to the hand-picked Indian elites in 1947, uh, the government of India came in possession of a lot of land. And the people who owned land in 1947 were essentially the hand-picked elite of the British. So some Indians became extremely wealthy as a consequence of colonization, but the rest of India, the majority of Indians, became incredibly poor. India had a life expectancy of 31 in 1947. India had a per capita GDP which was abysmal. India's cumulative GDP was less than 2% of the world's GDP, down from 34% in the 1700s. So that's what the British did. So everybody became landless. Most Indians became landless. So what should have happened in 1947 was land redistribution. Land should have been every Indian. I mean, what is freedom? Freedom, what is independence? Independence means everybody has some land again. All the wrongs that were done by the colonizer should have been undone in 1947 or in a period of time, 1947 onwards. All the British laws should have been removed and Indian law should have been brought in. The British institutions should have been dissolved and Indian institutions based in Indian culture and civilization should have been created over a period of time, maybe 5-10 years. And there should have been land redistribution in 1947. That never happened. So a lot of land was given by the British to the church in India. And the church was typically given land on 99-year leases. And those leases have expired. But the church still has those lands. And they have those buildings on top of those lands in India today. The church, the Catholic Church, is India's largest or second largest landowner, non-government landowner. So the government probably is the largest landowner. I think maybe the Waqf board is the largest landowner. I'm not sure, but the Catholic Church comes next. So they don't really own the land. The land was given on leases. It was Indian land given to a foreign entity. So that should have been undone. Those leases should have been declared null and void in 1947. That never happened. And today those leases have expired, but the government of India dares not take the land back for its people. So even today we are too scared to undo the evils of colonization. We're too scared. Even today's government is scared. And when it comes to land redistribution, you can't do it today. It should have been done in 1947. Today it will be seen as a travesty by a lot of people. So we had the opportunity to start the process of decolonization in 1947. It has never started. It has not even started today. So today you can't do land redistribution because too much water has passed under the bridge since 1947. Too much has happened. Too much of land has been bought legally by people. Will you take away the land that they bought legally after 47? You can't do that. Lots of companies, lots of industries have bought land legally. Lots of people have bought land legally. Small parcels of land, big parcels of land, or whatever. How can you take that away now and redistribute it? It should have been done in 1947. You can't do it today. Big opportunity lost. What is independence? If you were landless and dirt poor during British during the British occupation of India, and the same situation persists after 47, then what is the meaning of independence for the common person? There was no independence. Everything stayed the same. You just had new overlords. So was it really independence? That's the question. Okay, Rishabh Mohanty says this year a virologist named Beata Halasi cured her third stage breast cancer by developing her own vaccine. If it's true, then it can be a breakthrough in medical sciences. It can be a blessing for many cancer patients. Uh, then why have scientists all over the world not why are they not doing research on it? And why relevant stakeholders are not initiating any action to implement such treatment as soon as possible? Um, so this lady is a biochemist. She's an infectious disease researcher. So she was around 50 or something, and she already had a couple of breast cancer diagnoses before this event. So I think she had undergone a mastectomy, which is the removal of the breast tissue, etc. But then the cancer reoccurred in the same place. So what she did was that she studied the literature, the scientific literature that's available, and she decided to use an unproven treatment. I'm not sure what the treatment is called, but it involves viruses. So she chose to target the tumor with two different viruses, I think consecutively, probably not simultaneously. And she did that over a period of, I don't know, 2 or 3 months. So she prepared this treatment with research grade material that she herself made, and one of her colleagues administered the treatment to her. It was injected directly into the tumor, and that cured the lady. And then she obviously felt, as a scientist, she felt the responsibility to publish these findings. And when she did that, she wrote down the paper, which was co-authored with other colleagues. And whenever she submitted this paper for publication to a journal, she got a rejection. It was rejected more than a dozen times by more than a dozen journals. And eventually it was published. And apparently they kept rejecting it because this research involved self experimentation, and apparently self experimentation is bad. The lady was about to die, so why would she not self experiment, right? It was almost like a death sentence, the second or third recurrence of the same cancer. uh, and there's been a lot of negative articles written about her. For example, in the journal Nature, that this is a very bad precedent and other researchers should not do that and all that. I don't see anything wrong with what she did. So I'm glad she was able to save herself through her own expertise and her own research. Uh, excuse me. And the methods she used will definitely be a blessing for many cancer patients. I'm not sure if nobody is taking it forward. There's been a lot of backlash against what she did, self experimentation, but she proved that this technique works. And I'm sure that people will take it forward. So the criticism and the backlash has been towards her because she did something that's frowned upon in academia, in the academic world: self experimentation. You have to do a double bind you know trials and all that. There's a certain way to do it. You don't do it on yourself, and that's why she's been criticized. But she got the results and she proved that it works. So I don't see anything wrong with that. the the academic system worldwide has become very ossified, very regressive. There's a lot of groupthink. There's a lot of resistance to innovation and to differing ideas and differing methodologies and techniques and things like that. It's very problematic. So I'm glad she did that, and now I'm sure people will take it forward and use that the treatment that she discovered or used in scientific in medical treatments going forward. I'm sure. Okay, let's take some more questions from the live chat now. Spartan Bhagwa says, shouldn't every dharmic male or female learn how to fight? I recently started learning MMA. It has helped me realize the importance of mental toughness and power of the mind. I think everybody should learn how to fight, uh, irrespective of your gender, male, female, doesn't matter. Everybody should be fit, should be strong. Everybody should lift weights. If you're a female, it doesn't mean you should not lift weights. It doesn't mean you should not get strong. And lifting weights will not make a female fat or large or masculine. It doesn't happen unless you take hormones or steroids. Otherwise, it's fine. And every male also should lift weights and learn how to handle themselves, because it's possible someday you may be attacked by somebody, who knows, whatever. Uh, so yes, everybody should learn self-defense. Everybody should develop their body and make it strong, physically strong. You need to be like stronger than average, yes. And if you can learn MMA or whatever, Krav Maga or whatever, it's good. Please do that. So yeah, i- you can't have a strong mind without having a strong body. You can, but having a strong body will automatically make you feel mentally strong. So you got to do that. So I would encourage everybody to ensure that you are physically fit and strong. And yeah, and you know how to defend yourself. Anamika says, could it be that with Trump in power now, Narendra Modi will face less difficulty in the 2029 elections? I think 2029 is too far away, way too far away. You know what they say, a week is a long time in politics. We're talking about 4.5 years right now. Uh, with Trump in power, things will change. The equation between the US and India will change somewhat, not a lot. The US will still keep pressurizing India. They will still leverage Bangladesh, East Pakistan, West Pakistan against India. They will continue playing whatever games they are playing. They will still keep on going after Adani or whoever is, um, whichever industrialist is aligning himself geopolitically with the Indian national interest. They will go after those people. They will try and curtail India's growth. They will do all that, but it may be less harsh and less vituperative than the Biden administration. Um, so yeah, things will change somewhat, but I think 2029 is way too far away. What will be Mr. Modi's age in 29? What's his age right now? I wonder. Let me quickly let's Google Mr. Modi's age. Narendra Modi age. How old is he? He's 74 in 2024. In 29 is gonna be what? It's gonna be 79. We have to ask ourselves, do we want a 79-year-old prime minister? The question is, will Mr. Modi himself want to run for election as prime minister again in 79? At the age of 79, are you in the right physical and mental shape or space to take on the responsibility of being a prime minister? I'm not sure. Uh, Look, I don't want to speculate as to who's going to be the prime ministerial candidate of the BJP in 29, but maybe it could be possibly somebody else apart from Mr. Modi. So we don't know. My main point is 2029 is way too far away. With Trump coming in office in January next year, in about a month's time, slightly more than a month's time, things will change for India and the US. The relationship, probably, the relationship will improve to a certain extent, and then we can use that better relationship to have a better partnership, and we'll take it from there. Okay. Okay. Um, Geopolitical Dubey says, do you think China will take threats seriously from Uyghur Muslims to liberate East Turkestan? China takes its national security extremely seriously, and China doesn't tolerate terrorism or separatism. So yes, there have been threats from Syria, from Uyghur Muslims who have been fighting in the so-called rebel forces. There have been threats that they will now return to Xinjiang, East Turkestan, or whatever, and fight against the Chinese government to liberate that. And obviously, if they are fighting on behalf of the rebels, the rebranded Al Qaeda, rebranded ISIS, obviously they are US assets, these Uyghur Muslims who are fighting there. So if they go and fight against China, then it's going to benefit the US. So China will take that very seriously. China takes these things very seriously. Yes, they do. And they will crack down very hard on any such activity. Pankaj says Indian submarine program delayed again. Okay, I'm not aware of what has happened, which made you say this. I'm not aware. Maybe it's true. Which submarine program are you referring to? The nuclear submarine program, the standard regular submarines, the P-75I project? Which one? But I don't know which one. But yeah, these projects, they move along very slowly. India needs lots of submarines. India should have a minimum of bare minimum 50. We don't even have 20 right now. And we are procuring submarines at a snail's pace, a glacial pace. So yeah, this is, and submarines are the most important naval asset in the 20th century, not aircraft carriers, submarines. So the government needs to get its act together. Navy should get its act together. We need more submarines, invest in submarines. Quantity is important. Quality is also important, but quantity very, very important. Yeah, so unfortunate if it's true that the program has been further delayed, whichever program it is. Gaurav Jat Mumbly says, who do you think was the best commander of the Second World War? Rommel, Eisenhower, Zhukov, George Patton, MacArthur, Montgomery. You've given me a who's who of great war leaders, of great generals. Rommel was called the Desert Fox, wasn't he? He did this brilliant campaign in North Africa, but his career did not end well at all. I'll not go into the details, but yeah, it was a very bad ending to his career, and he did not deserve that. Rommel. Eisenhower, I would say the greatest commander of the Second World War was Georgy Zhukov, the guy who defeated the Nazis. You know, if you watch Hollywood movies and all that, you will get the feeling that the Americans defeated the Nazis in the Second World War. It's not the case. It was the USSR that defeated the Nazis. The USSR did most of the fighting, most of the dying, and most of the winning. And Field Marshal Georgy Zhukov was instrumental in this. So, yeah, you've given a number of names of very, very great generals, but I would say Georgy Zhukov would be my pick for the best commander of the Second World War. Okay, some more questions. What do we have? Punjab Story says, do you think Cyprus can reunite again? Cyprus wants to join NATO. Do you think this can escalate war, same like Russia, Ukraine? Why USA and UK nowadays show so much interest in Cyprus? Okay, let's take the first question and only that. Do you think Cyprus can reunite? So what's the deal with Cyprus? Cyprus is a partitioned nation, a divided nation. Let's go to the map quickly. Google Map. Here we have it. We go to Cyprus in the Mediterranean Sea. And you can see there are these dashed lines over here. And there's a buffer zone, line of no control, no man's land, essentially, over here. And northern Cyprus, the northern part, above the dashed lines, is under occupation by Turkey. The southern part is free, essentially. And the people of Cyprus, the native people, are of Greek origin. But as a consequence, or as a leftover consequence of the Ottoman occupation of the region, there's a Turkish population as well. They of course also have Greek DNA, but they are now Turkish, and the Turks have occupied the northern part of the country, and the nation is partitioned right now. Can Cyprus reunite in the future? It's going to be very difficult for that to happen. I don't see it happening in the foreseeable future. Turkey has its own geopolitical agenda and plans, an expansionist set of ambitions. So I don't see that happening anytime in the near future or medium term future, maybe the long term future. You never know. All right. Ronak says, why me ignored? I'm not sure what you're talking about. Have you been asking questions? Okay. No, I'm not sure what you asked. So I don't mean to ignore anybody, but I can only take a limited number of questions. Vikram says, was Bobby Fischer the best chess player the world has ever had? Probably one of the best. I can't say who is the best, but he was definitely a genuine genius for sure. Bobby Fischer. Um, right. Okay. What else do we have? Karan Nalawat says, is it really possible to date Ramayana and Mahabharata using astronomical data? It is. Look, you can't invent fictitious astronomical data. If somebody invents fictitious astronomical data, you can debunk that. It's the simplest thing in the world to debunk that, because the stars, the planets, the constellations, etc., they follow Newtonian mechanics, celestial orbital dynamics, and all the celestial dynamics, orbital dynamics, and so on. Newtonian physics. It's super easy to debunk any fictitious invented astronomical data. What we know is that the astronomical data that's encoded in the Ramayana and Mahabharata is not fictitious. It's actual observational evidence. So it should be not very difficult to determine exactly when in the past those positions of various constellations and other objects happened. The question is, the problem that we are facing is that various researchers who are tackling this problem, their interpretations of the original Sanskrit texts are different. So what they do is they will take the original Sanskrit text, or maybe a translation from Sanskrit to Hindi, Sanskrit to English, and then interpret that based on that. And they all have different interpretations of what is written in Sanskrit. And that's why they have different dates that they've thrown up for the Ramayana, for the Mahabharata. And that's the issue. So it's definitely possible to date the Ramayana and the Mahabharata if you can accurately and correctly interpret what is written in the original Sanskrit text. Otherwise, it's going to be a never-ending fight, which we are seeing every day on social media between these people, these researchers. They seem to have this penchant of fighting each other in a very public way. Okay, I think we are done with today's episode, with today's live stream. 2 hours, 13 minutes plus. So let's take one last question. Uma Maheshwari says, our reality is based on space-time fabric, whereas in quantum physics, time is a background parameter. Why are they both contradictory? We don't know why, and that's the big problem. That is one of the big, outstanding, unsolved problems or issues in theoretical physics. Two of the best theories that we ever have had in physics: quantum mechanics or quantum field theory on the one hand, and general relativity. General relativity describes the large scale structure of the universe brilliantly. We have tried to break the theory, it doesn't break. It is super spot on, super accurate. On the other hand, in the microscopic realm of the universe, quantum theory, quantum field theory, quantum mechanics, absolutely wonderful theory, works perfectly. All the technologies we have are based on quantum physics, quantum mechanics, quantum field theory. But they simply don't reconcile. In quantum mechanics, time is a external classical parameter. Yes, it's an external parameter, it's a classical parameter. It doesn't emerge from the theory, it comes from outside. And in general relativity, time is one of the 4 dimensions, and there are issues when you try to quantize general relativity. It doesn't work, it breaks down. There are issues. So yeah, we don't know why, and that's why we are trying to find a quantum theory of gravity, and we are thus far failing spectacularly, because string theory was supposedly a solution. It's not worked. So it's a work in progress. Nobody has the answer to why this is so, and that's what we are trying to figure out. All right, with that, I'm going to end today's session. Thank you very much, everybody, for all your questions. I really appreciate your viewership, your support, and apologies once again to those whose questions I could not take. Obviously, there are so many questions. We'll continue this next week, and I'll take many more questions then. Until then, take care, keep asking questions, keep raising your standards, keep learning, And I'll see you in next week's live stream. Bye bye.